Sorry about that.
Oh,
hey,
we're doing
AEW fanatics and AEW fans of the Biconics Wrestling Podcast. Welcome here to all of us on our big AEW Full Gear review. And it's big because we have an expert with us.
Fireworks, explosions.
Ow. We are extremely excited to be here to review the entirety of Full Gear with these lovely people who all take the time out of their week to watch AEW programming, including ROH, and know the product well enough to give you kind of their insight as well as their thoughts and everything else on the product, including Mikey, our El Jefe, who was on the ground in LA.
On the ground.
Boots on the ground. And you have some experiences to go into for the fans here, so we'll get into that in a second. But again, we have El Jefe, we have Adolfo back in from the Dynamite Podcast, we've got Jesse from ROH, JVL here running the ones and twos, and we are excited to go into Full Gear because this thing built itself all over the place, added on 2 matches on Friday, like right before the thing that we couldn't have predicted, and it was chock full of just everything, and didn't know how to do everything the right way. It was bizarre. Yeah, there was some stuff there, but it showed the change in AEW that has been slowly making its way through there that we'll discuss in a bit. But we'll start off our evening going into 0 hour, which was honestly longer than an hour, and so therefore
I guess 0 hour and a half isn't sketchy.
Pretty much not, really. But we started off those right there with the ROH title being defended on a pay-per-view for AEW. Eddie Kingston took on, now I'm forgetting everything about this.
Jay Lethal.
Well, that's why I forget, because it's goddamn TNA.
Yep.
A TNA guy, cutting back. Eddie Kingston took on Jay Lethal and the entirety of Team TNA for the ROH title. Mm-hmm. Boys, as an opener for the night, as a kind of a palate wetter, if you were watching on YouTube, did you enjoy seeing Eddie Kingston basically absorb Jay Lethal and beat the living crap out of him?
Yeah,
Mikey,
I would say yeah. I'll talk more about my take on the ROH titles when we get to the other ROH titles that were defended on this pre-show. We'll get there, but this match, I kind of enjoyed seeing Jay Lethal get his ass kicked a little bit.
Yeah, I enjoyed watching Jay Lethal getting tossed around. I enjoyed Ortiz coming in at that last minute. That was definitely cool. Yeah, for what it was, I had no issues with it. It was entertaining, kept me going. It was good. I liked it.
Mikey, were you in the building for this as well? Did you get in time for 0 hour, or were you still finding your seats at this point?
No. Me and my friend, we made it to just as they started ringing the bell for this match to start, because my friend was like, oh yeah, it won't take us that long. I was just like, you said it's going to be 5 minutes, so I should make it 15. Okay. We literally pulled up at 4 o'clock, and when we walked into the building, the bell sounded, and then we just booked it to our seat. But
that is... Oh, go ahead, Mikey. I'm sorry.
That was a fun dash. I figured that Eddie was not going to lose the title here, and I also agree it was fun watching him whip Jay Lethal up and down the ring. And then, of course, being there live, obviously it makes sense too. The crowd was so hot for Eddie, like the whole entire time. Jay Lethal had nary a chance with the crowd, and it was great.
Took that thing straight to the mush.
How does it sound live?
Oh, it sounded bad. Okay, so here's the thing. Let me bring some behind the scenes stuff, right? So because
I'm not ready to hear that yet.
No, I've been to enough WWE shows that I've noticed the differences between them and AEW. Like, even when you're there live, they mic up the whole entire ring. So all the things that the wrestlers were saying and everything, we heard it over the speaker system in the arena.
It's intense. That's awesome. Oh my God. Well, yeah, Sanjay Dutt took that straight to the mush.
Yeah, he
really
did.
big there. We had Ortiz come out at the end to save Eddie from the beat
that
was going on. So glad to see that in some weird back room somewhere, Ortiz and Eddie, who had a lot of problems, obviously, about like 3 months ago when they were on different teams in that giant like 4-way match, finally put their differences aside. I guess, having Mike Santana be a dick to you really helps you find out who your friends are. But
I guess
because of that, I also realized now looking back, this was the first inkling that there were going to be some plot holes and weird storylines going on tonight in this Full Gear thing, reminiscent of a much lauded era in wrestling of the 90s Attitude Era, where we just did things week to week and didn't care what the continuity was. So,
so me and Adolfo knows that there's continuity to this match, because me and Adolfo are the only two here that watch Rampage, because this is a Rampage storyline. But even then, Rampage tends to forget their own storylines half the time anyways. But I was like, wait a minute, because the people that were sitting not to the right of us, but to the left of us, the people on the left of us were cool at the arena. They were chill. But I had a conversation. They're like, wait a minute, where did this match come up? I was like, okay, here's what happened. Do you watch Rampage? No. Okay, let me give you the quick version. So this has been a thing that's happened on Rampage. And remember, a couple weeks ago, like 4 or 5 weeks ago, we had that street fight between Jeff Jarrett and Eddie Kingston. And if Jeff won that street fight, he got Jay Lethal the championship match. And that happened, and we did nothing with it until now. They're like, we're in Los Angeles. Stick Eddie on here. The crowd will go nuts. I'm like, yeah, I hated it. I was just like, I feel like they forgot about it. And then when I saw that this was going to be on 0 Hour, I'm like, never mind. At least we're done with Jay Lethal hanging around. So that title shot is gone because Eddie's going to be busy with that title for the next couple of weeks, which we'll get to when we get to the announcement portion of him.
Definitely here. I will also say it set up the fact that if we don't watch Rampage, or you're not sure you want to start watching Rampage, we have a lovely crew here that reviews it every week and would give you the lowdown there so you would know where you are in the storylines. I say this now knowing that I don't watch the product and I need to watch it more. So we'll move on from the first 0 Hour match to another match that was on 0 Hour, added on very at the last minute. And from everything I got out of the entire night, was probably one of the few matches that probably could have been pulled from the card, wouldn't have missed anything, didn't really further anything a lot of the way, but the work rate in it was amazing to watch live. And that was Claudio Castagnoli taking on Buddy Matthews.
So the only build-up to this was that in Collision, you have had the House of Black has been popping up and causing House of Black chaos, and they have been sticking their big boots in the business of the BCC. And was it Rampage or Collision? Rampage and Collision were both on Friday night.
It was a long 3 hours.
Yeah, which I watched, and we'll get into that later. Anyway, but there was a dust up with the House of Black and BCC again on Friday night, which I guess was the segue into having Hottie McHot Buddy Matthews versus Claudio Castagnoli. I will have your babies, buddy. Anyway, so
you mean prime male Buddy Matthews?
I
certified prime.
Well, you also realized you had to get Buddy Matthews on. You had everyone else from the House of Black had a match.
Yeah, and everyone else from the House of Black.
Card,
yeah.
So
yeah.
And same.
Yeah, because other than, what's his nuts, whose face is jacked up right now, you had everyone else from the Blackpool Combat Club. Yeah, Bryan Danielson. Everyone else from the Blackpool Combat Club was on Full Gear, so why the fuck not? Let me jump into it first. I enjoyed the match. There was a lot of great work. It was nice seeing Claudio getting beat up for once, just because the last few times that he's been on Rampage, Collision, whatnot, he has been the one that has not had a lot of time in the ring, but has been dealing out the punishment. You know what I mean? So to see, yeah, right. Most of the time he's been in tag teams with Wheeler, and Wheeler is the one that's getting his ass kicked, while Claudio runs around and does that to everyone and knocks everyone out, and oh my god, Claudio Castagnoli. So it was nice seeing Claudio getting beaten up. Both guys, great work on both ends. I'm bummed that Buddy got beat. I would have even more liked to have seen some of that, dare I say, earlier in the year House of Black shenanigans where the lights go off and then they turn back on, and oh my god, the House of Black is all sitting crisscross applesauce in front of Claudio Castagnoli, and there's Malachi Black, and he enchants him with his, boo-ee-oo, and then whispers right, and then whispers something in Claudio's ear, and then Claudio goes to therapy or something. That's
Bryan Danielson stuff. It's not Claudio stuff. Bryan goes to therapy, not Claudio.
Fair. But that was my take.
Jesse, what were you about to say here? You got a little angry here from what I said there.
We'll get there. We've got more House of Black stuff later on, and I'll save my points till then. This match was a well-worked match. I didn't love the outcome of the match, but I'll keep it there for the sake of time.
Mikey, how much did you drool over Buddy Matthews when you were sitting there watching him live as a specimen from that far away?
I was like, huh? No, having the ring mic'd up for the audience to hear everything over the PA system in the Kia Forum was a lot of fun. And it made when Buddy had Claudio on the top rope in the corner and kicked him multiple times in the face, we heard every single kick. It was vicious, and then I thought Buddy broke something when Claudio just dumped him straight onto the apron towards the beginning of the match too, and that sounded really bad too because it echoed throughout the arena.
Commentary commented on that too.
Again, I am happy that I did not have to hear commentary for this match. It was so nice to take a break from it for once, but the fans let me know what was going on, and we'll get to that as we get to the later half of the show. I'm also in agreement. I did not like the ending. Poor Buddy Matthews can never catch a break here. He seems to be on a losing streak every match he's involved in. Honestly, though, I'm of the minority that I think that I would have rather seen this on the main card, and we could have swapped or taken off another match that I didn't think needed to be there. But, because certain EVPs needed to be on the show, that's neither here nor there.
Very subtle.
Yeah. No, I've made it very abundantly clear. I'm not happy with certain people right now over the last couple months, but I also don't blame for how lackluster the match was for me, because whoever was after that Hangman Swerve match was going to not be able to do what it needed to. But I enjoyed the match.
We're still not off the pre-show yet. This is great. Because we move on to the match that was announced and that we actually made predictions on. So our first predicted match of the night, MJF and Samoa Joe, as was put up there, against the Guns for the ROH tag titles.
How did we do on our prediction?
Match itself wasn't terrible.
No.
The angle was terrible. The ending was terrible. And all that good stuff there. But the match working wasn't bad. I love seeing Samoa Joe get the hot tag. Like, that to me was a lot of fun to watch.
Yep. Jesse, you look like you want to say something. Go ahead,
Jesse, go.
There is a seething anger from this side of the room. I'm just waiting for it to go.
The match itself, good match, fine match. Okay with that. I am frustrated with the presentation. Excuse me. I'm so frustrated. I can't
The
say that word
presentation
correctly of the Ring of Honor titles, the World Title, the TV title, the Tag titles. We told you. I myself said it. We can go back in old videos and watch it. We told you we wanted those belts on Ring of Honor to add prestige to them, add some storyline to them, add some continuity to them. As the word of the day, why weren't you listening?
Because MJF's popular.
Then put different belts on him. He's already got one. How many does it need? He doesn't even wear pants. Why does he need a belt? Put the Ring of Honor titles back on Ring of Honor, add some prestige, stop using those props, and I won't have to talk like this to you. Please.
Fair. So, I enjoyed the match for what it was. Oh my God, I got a cramp. Don't let him take my title.
I don't control what. I'm not even you. Okay, sure. No,
that felt so
I have all the power.
That felt so disjointed.
No.
Well, it also,
it fits because you want to know what else was disjointed? Tag me in, Adolfo. Tag me in real quick. Tag me in. Okay, because I knew some crap was going to happen. I'm trying not to swear as much. I knew something was going to go down because as soon as the match... First of all, I want to start off with the pros. Samoa Joe looked like he was having a good time, and that's always a good time for me. Like, he enjoyed himself. He was being funny.
Oh, yeah.
There was that one point when they both went for the double muscle buster, and then Samoa Joe was late to it. He was, like, smacking the gun, and then he realized he's like, oh, yeah, and he saw the face. He's like, oops, grabs it real quick, put him in a muscle buster for the double muscle buster at the end. This was a really fun match. I really love it. Samoa Joe looked like he was having fun. The Guns, I love them overselling everything. It is so fantastically comedic. I enjoyed it.
The nope spot on the drop kick was awesome.
Yes. The crowd popped for the nope spot, as they should. I was like, all right, I could get with this crowd. And then once the match was over and Samoa Joe and MJF were declared the winners, everything went downhill for me, and I knew this was not going to be a pleasant experience for the rest of the pay-per-view because what happened? The Guns, first and foremost, I'm not going to wait until the end, but no Juice Robinson tonight, which I was shocked.
Oh, commentary brought that up. They said that he had a full lacerated forehead from the TV that he got thrown on his head in collision, so he wasn't cleared to be in the building. He was hiding from getting the crap kicked out of him.
This is why you guys help me fill in the gaps, because obviously being there live, we don't get to hear commentary, but going back to what I was saying.
He was actually injured.
Ugh, that sucks. Speedy recovery, Juice. At least one of you in your relationship has a title now.
And a loaded ass, but that's beside the point.
We'll get to that because that was, we'll get to that.
Mike, to be fair about this right now, the ending was where the first of the very major plot holes in this entire night came
This was red flag number one for me because the Guns beat up MJF, which I was like, okay, fine. Adam Cole can't do anything because, he's in a walking boot.
Adam Cole came down to the ring.
Yeah.
What's he doing there?
I don't know. They needed to get him on
television. Knock it off or I'm going to limp all over.
And not be the devil.
We'll talk about that during the main event. But at this point, the Guns beat up MJF. I was like, okay, I'm used to it because Bang Bang Gang has been going after MJF, which is fine. And then they proceed to brutalize him with a chair, which then, as soon as the stretcher came out, I was just like, oh no. And then when they showed to the backstage with him going to the ambulance. I'm like, he's gonna Stone Cold Steve Austin this later, isn't he? And
he mankinded to the back, and then he Stone Cold Steve. I've seen this already in the 90s, and it had better plots.
Yeah.
Can I ask? Samoa Joe wants his title shot, right? He just was given one. He was said.
I was so confused because he
Why
walked off like a face, bro.
Yeah. Why isn't he there saving his ass and making sure he gets the title shot against MJF? It makes no sense.
No, and I started to get frustrated, and it only got worse as the night went on because I had to. If you thought you guys were reminded a lot at home of what happened during 0 Hour with the MJF beatdown, trust me, they played the exact same thing multiple times while we were there live.
I thought Adolfo actually acted out that scene better than MJF did. This was bad acting. This was almost WCW Sid level of overacting that injury.
He acted as well as his spray tan was put on him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Calico's cat special.
Yeah.
A great way.
Final thought. I would have much appreciated if the Acclaim came out to save him at the last minute. Or Samoa Joe turn back around, and if not save MJF, be like, okay, Adam Cole, you know what? I do you this solid because he looked like he was like we said, he looked like he was having fun, and I would have enjoyed to see Samoa Joe toss Switchblade around. So, but yeah, that's
any of the guns. Him tossing around both guns would have been so much fun to see.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah. So.
But yes, that was how 0 Hour ended. We ended with what was going to be a night-long storyline throughout the entire thing. So again, we're setting it up like the Attitude Era. There's going to be a storyline on your pay-per-views that's going to run through. And there was a part of me who was going, well, I do have nostalgia for this type of thing overall, and it could go somewhere. It'd be cool to see. It didn't.
But they also would not introduce those on Sunday Night Heat at the time. It would be at the beginning of the interview or the beginning of the show.
I disagree.
Do you?
I do disagree.
Okay, well,
we'll talk about this off thing.
You're allowed to be wrong. Let's move forward.
I'm always happy to be wrong in this situation. However, we moved off of the 0 Hour pre-show, which was free on YouTube, and for everyone watching this, now click on that QR code that we're going to put up there definitely so that you have to pay for our Patreon-only review of this, because that's how this works with AEW. You watch the little bit for free, and then you got to pay for the damn event. We moved on
Disregard
to
that message.
I thought we were just allowing the video. They'd have to pay for the audio.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, so it's just our lovely faces.
I thought I could say fuck.
Hang on,
so
let me
did
write
Darby
this
Allin in the
down.
next damn thing.
Mark this time.
Because we had the patriarchy of Christian Cage, Luchasaurus, and Nick Wayne being brought in by all of the kids that Christians adopted, obviously, and stolen from the LA area to sing his theme song.
I don't care what nobody says. That
throwback.
was really cool to hear live.
It was awesome. I just find it funny that it's all children, and I'm like, of course it is.
I freaking loved this entrance. This was like the highlight far for me was this entrance.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm just giving you crap. But they down with that. And then we have this entrance then pissed me off. Not because of the matching uniforms, not because of the face paint or the bats. Why did you play Adam Copeland's ring music when you had Sting as the main attraction on this?
In his last wrestling match in the California area.
Yeah.
Because this is Adam Copeland's first pay-per-view in AEW. That's why.
And everyone knows the song. It is a little bit more of a banger, which I understand, but you're setting up
go
Sting
to an
here.
Alter Bridge concert. Let's give Sting his accolades.
I don't know. By the way, I wasn't worried about him, but seeing Ric Flair go, oh crap, I haven't made it down the ramp yet as they're turning the lights on. I was like, oh god, Ric Flair's lost it.
Why the fuck did he get his own separate thing? I mean,
stop cursing.
Because he's the one using Dalton Castle's gimmick for himself on his Titantron.
Jeez.
That's fair.
But yes, we had the 3-on-3 match with Ric Flair at ringside, which, of course, he's there. They're going to use him. No one should anymore. It really isn't. And we had a humongous, started off pretty easy, but big cluster schmaz after all. Luchasaurus got a lot of great offense in this one, though, showcasing how powerful he is, destroying Darby Allin by chokeslamming him from the ring onto the apron. I thought he was dead.
Yeah.
I need to pause for a moment. Match-related question, especially with Adam Copeland talking about how he dressed up essentially like he was cosplaying Darby Allin for this match. He did that recently. He did that when he was in WWE with Rey Mysterio in that tag match. Is he just run out of things to achieve, so now he's just doing the side quests of cosplaying his favorite wrestlers? Because I'm okay with that, but let's be transparent about it.
Yeah, Adam Copeland.
I'm editing this, so you're not getting that.
Can I also say, this was when I knew Nigel McGuinness was on point tonight for the entire thing.
Yeah.
Just examples of what we got this evening. Ric Flair, he shows up more often than herpes and is just as unwelcome, which was amazing.
Damn, I kind of wish Nigel was the only one mic'd up for
use
us
that
to
at
hear
work.
it.
He's like an amiable T-1000. Terminator references on there.
Yeah.
You know, it's Nigel was on point, taking it to Ric Flair and like taking it to everybody else. He was the only good part of commentary tonight. Excalibur seemed exasperated and not happy to be there, and Taz was a whole thing where basically he basically took JR's pills from the day before and was lost for the entire day.
Everybody golden.
Why is everyone golden?
So before we move forward, before we jump into the match proper, I think I may have just uncovered why they did sign Ric Flair, because the Patriarchy is there. Rick's getting up there. Once he goes, we immediately now have a feud for Christian Cage and Andrade.
I got it. No, I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
I'm right there.
Yeah.
Don't speak that into existence.
I forget that he's his father-in-law. That's why I didn't register.
Unless Charlotte comes over, then we have a very weird feud.
Christian starts to date Charlotte.
Ew.
That's the rabbit hole we went down. Okay.
All right. So getting back to the match. I disagree. Yeah. I enjoyed this match. I didn't think it was as big as of a cluster schmoz.
Nice.
Right. As I thought it was going to be when everyone was announced out. I enjoyed for what Sting did, and I feel like we also called this in one of our earlier reviews when Sting first announced his retirement, that they're going to go easy on him. They're going to, let him run a part-time schedule, and they're going to give him the matches that he wants, so he can have his last hurrah. And for what he did in the match, I think he was fine. Would I have preferred to see repelling down off the rafter Sting? Yes. And to be fair, when I saw that spotlight, which I guess was pointing down at the floor, I thought it was pointing up in the rafters, and I got excited. I was like, oh, are we seeing rafter Sting?
Yeah, that was a goosebump moment for me too.
60-something-year-old Sting up there in the rafters on a single line
with that gigantic vulture too.
Adolfo, I hate to burst your bubble. Even if that was an idea, it's not physically possible because the ceiling of the Kia Forum is caged off. There's no way to get through.
You know what, Mikey? First I can't curse, and now you're telling me that the Kia Stadium isn't a thing with a thing and a thing. You know what? Buzzkill. That's all I'm saying. Anyway,
I'll make you a deal. You can curse on this. I will not edit it out. Just make sure you pick the curse words properly, because certain words are going to get us a really big time in trouble.
PG-13.
Boss, with all due respect,
yes,
I don't need your logic to mess up my dreams.
Neither did AEW.
I'm the boss. I'm supposed to crush your dreams.
But
you need a raise.
Back to the review.
I can't keep you guys on track if I tried.
So it was good for what he did. I think it was a good primer for him and his AEW pay-per-view premiere officially. I really did enjoy that they all came out with the matching costumes. Darby Allin was the workhorse. Luchasaurus he's just fantastic. I mean, I can't get enough of Luchasaurus. A bunch of moves which are really good. Do I feel the only thing that didn't sit well with me is I didn't think that he deserved to be in this type of spotlight match so early in his career, if that makes any sense whatsoever. I just feel like and I get it, it's because he's Nick Wayne, he has that history with Darby Allin and, blah, blah, blah. But I feel that, other wrestlers have been in AEW longer and have worked harder to have, a spotlight match like that. And I thought the ending with Christian Cage running out like a bitch I enjoyed this match.
So I will agree to you to a degree about the Nick Wayne point you just made, but it makes sense for the story as we are still building the Patriarchy, because I don't think it's going to end here. I think they're going to keep accumulating more members. My favorite point of the match was such a simple thing. Every time Adam Copeland tagged in, Christian Cage was in. Just a simple, and it was such a simple thing to keep that rivalry kind of stalling even more and just letting it grow. So I enjoyed that. For the match overall, I did enjoy it for the nonsense that I did bring up.
Adam Copeland and Christian Cage did not touch this entire match except for the one time he got his hand on his boot. They are saving that for when they actually have a match against each other, which is great.
Adam Copeland.
So I'm going to take it a step further. I completely disagree with Adolfo in terms of Nick Wayne being in this match. And the only reason why is that I understand if you're not familiar with Nick Wayne's work on the independent scene. I could see that he just came in. He just got signed to AEW. So it's questionable to have him in a spot like this. but Nick Wayne is part of the class of wrestlers that are the young prodigies. So like Roxanne Perez to a certain extent over in another company. Like these kids have been wrestling since they were like 9 and 10. Like they've been doing this pretty much all their lives, and they picked it up so quickly. They're putting a lot of veterans who have been doing this for a long time to shame because of how quick, and it's in their blood, it's in their DNA. So from that standpoint, it doesn't surprise me that Nick's in this position because he doesn't have to go through the testing grounds of certain things. Like, all right, let's see how you do with this kind of spot. And that the kid has wrestled in GCW for also, and he's had some really wild matches, which is insane to watch. So he's got everything ready to go. And I agree with Jesse that it does also make sense to put Nick in this spot because, again, you are building up the patriarchy. I don't think there's going to be any new members. I think there might be adjacent teams that might team up with the patriarchy, but I don't think this is going to be a full like 4 or 5, 6 person faction because we don't even have that many people in the factions we currently have in AEW. That's a lot of people.
Ton of factions.
But I thought this match was great. Luchasaurus dumping Darby in here. I thought Darby broke something because he hit that mat hard, and the mat echoed throughout the arena too.
He hit the wrong way too.
Also, when Christian kept tagging out, the whole entire crowd was booing him and calling him a wuss, but with the P word instead. They were calling him a wussy. It was
a wusp.
Yes, a wusp.
He was a wusp, and they were also chanting throughout the whole entire match that like some punk A-ish every time Christian tagged out. And I called it that Luchasaurus was going to get hit in some capacity because he got hit with that TNT Championship, which allowed Team Sting to pick up the victory here. And I am glad to hear that Darby's message and the standing ovation made it to the actual pay-per-view feed because the whole entire arena was up on their feet and just like...
As they should be.
Yeah, it was a beautiful moment.
Yeah, I don't think they actually. I was gonna say I don't think they actually cut away at all from the end with Sting getting his accolades. I think they played the whole thing on the
They got everything else. They stayed on a lot longer than you thought they would. But
yeah,
some other highlights from the match just quickly. Nick Wayne being very happy being a heel. He looks like he's having fun. That's what I got from that too. Like him being that way, he had a lot of fun with it. The barricade bump he took, where they got thrown onto the barricade, was nasty. Again, Darby Allin, I was saying you're going to be in a wheelchair by 35, taking that type of bump where you're going on your hip onto the apron. Was anybody else bothered that Sting was wearing a brown belt with everything else black, or was it just me?
Nah, I was okay with it.
Just me.
Didn't even notice.
Finally, the "Who's Your Daddy" chants that kept going along is always great to hear in a Christian case.
Oh, it was so good.
Just to wrap this up, I will say I am ready to see Luchasaurus starting to break to a rift developing between Luchasaurus and Christian Cage. A chasm. Because it's already like that seed has been planted, and with Christian Cage just like tucking tail and running and leaving Luchasaurus by himself. Like, I mean, I get it. He's a big lizard, but big lizards have feelings too. Next.
He's the only one there that's older than Ric Flair because he's a dinosaur. So it's always nice to have that kind of thing around. We move on from that to a promo on the ramp where the fallout of 0 Hour is being addressed. Tony Schiavone has Bryce Remsburg up on the ramp and brings out Jay White because in the contract Jay White signed to take on this match, if MJF is unable to compete or anything else, the title automatically gets given to Jay White. There is no vacation. There is no interim. It is going to be that way. Even though AEW is known for giving interim title holders, somehow they've changed this. At that point, Bryce Remsburg is about to announce that they are going to be giving the title over to Jay White, and Adam Cole comes hobbling out on his crutches and says, no, I am going to, as a person much more hurt than Max, obviously that we know this, I just went through surgery, I'm going to stand up, I've talked to Tony Khan, I'm going to take on Jay White for this, even though I can't even get into ring gear. What?
Yeah.
The logic of this is what?
Yeah, like I said in the 0 Hour, it would have been a lot more believable had he had Adam Cole then brought out Samoa Joe or someone else to stand in. But seeing Adam Cole come out, who you can tell he's not medically cleared to do anything because he's not in any sort of ring gear. You know, he's got that boot on and the crutches, and he actually is acting like he's hurt, that it just, didn't like it.
Was not a fan of how this whole thing played out. You knew what ending we were going to get before we even went into it. It was not enjoyable for me.
It was red flag number 2, and I'm going to save my feelings for the main event because I knew immediately this was not going to end well. in terms of writer and plot holes. We'll get to it in the main event. But maybe I feel like I'm the only one because the next match also made me question myself a little bit. I'm intrigued of what happens next, but this was also the next match was also like, all right then.
Well, we had a weirdly bloody but not super bloody affair. We had the international title match, the rematch between Orange Cassidy and Jon Moxley. Entrance is taking for freaking ever, which is great. And I felt bad. Orange was waiting for his intro to be finished to be able to get down, but he timed out pulling his title to his music, and he just barely missed it as he was doing this time, and had to actually care about getting in the ring. He couldn't be his character on the way to the ramp.
Now, but, I don't want to surprise anyone, but Jon Moxley bled in this match. I know it's a shocker. I know, and we might have to edit because I said the B word, but Jon Moxley bled. Just,
Thank you for that warning sign there too, Adolfo. It's very nice to have that there. Overall, this was an intense matchup that, the storytelling between the two of them, it was maybe not as fast-paced or as work rate as their match before when Mox beat him for the title, but there was a lot more depth to the story, I felt, this time, having to have Orange dig so deep and use Moxley's own offense against him to finish this match and keep the title around his waist. What did you guys think of the match itself?
I liked the match itself. I'll keep it pretty simple. I enjoyed it. I had a good time watching it. My main concern or question comes into, where do we go next with this international title? I thought for sure Mox was going to win. That way he has a proper reign with it because he was injured, so his previous reign got cut short. And now I don't know where we're going to go with this. So I'm curious to see where it develops into. Yep,
ditto. I enjoyed the match. It was great work with the two of them. Really enjoyable match. The only two things I have is not so much what happens to the Intercontinental belt next, but more importantly, where does Jon Moxley go after this? Because he kind of had that whole meltdown that he has no friends in this, that, and the other. So, where do we go there?
Almost got up to look Cassidy in the face and give him a handshake, and the BCC was shuffling him off.
Yeah,
and then of course the cameraman doesn't catch, although commentary is going into that Yuta and Hook interacted, and there was a little bit of a scuffle because they were too busy filming something else, so we didn't see it.
Let me tell you that. Okay, it was so great. I was just like, haha, I caught you. Now I was like, I'm learning things, you guys, but
funny.
I don't have. Go ahead.
My second thing real quick. Where the floor and filth is Danhausen?
We have no idea. I don't think AEW knows.
I was so waiting.
Him angry too.
I was so waiting for Jon Moxley just beating on Orange Cassidy, beating, and Danhausen pops out of the audience. He's like, I hex you, and then Moxley trips and smashes his head open, and Orange Cassidy gets the tag, the pin. So I'm done.
Mikey, I have to ask while you were there, because I heard this on the broadcast, or at least I think I did. I could have had a weird Mandela effect of this. After the biting back and forth, was there a bite forever chant?
There was.
Yeah, it wasn't fight.
It was bite forever, and also at some point, this was also the first where, I don't know if the pay-per-view picked it up, but the crowd was saying, you sick F, you sick F.
Oh, we got that.
Okay, you got it. Cool. I don't have too much to add to this. I enjoyed it for what it was. I'm surprised Moxley lost in here. At first, during the match, I didn't know how I felt about the 6 orange punches into the beach break for the win, because I felt that was a little excessive. But then again, it's Jon Moxley, and he was no selling half of the time in this match. He kept getting up after Orange Cassidy threw everything in the kitchen sink at him. I enjoyed this match. It was a lot of fun. I hope that there's some semblance of a plan for Orange Cassidy's second title reign, and I'm just going to have to wait and see. I know what you're doing, you two.
Honestly, the Booker hat in me keeps going, if they're building anything up and Cassidy's going to go on from this, it's going to be something with Hook. It's going to have to be something with Hook where they're building to either a title-on-title thing, or with anybody coming back here, Hook is the next big challenger they have to build to, where he's been teaching him as his young boy. It's time for him to take that on. So that is what I can see there. If this is the new intent, Orange Cassidy, do we then get him to be completely defeated now? I've defeated the man that I've been working towards, and he goes even farther into the cool, nonchalant Orange Cassidy that we've had before, barely wanting to defend things, the exact opposite of him, the burnt umber Cassidy. I don't know, something like that, where it gets to that point. But This was definitely a nice way, a really good match. And you're right, it's going to be interesting to see what they do with the storylines. Coming up next, though, we had a video package announcing that Mark Briscoe is going to be in the Continental Classic and talking about how he is all set to bring everything home there, and he's about to show the world again what it's like to be one of them boys. It's going to be a lot of fun. I think we have now total 4 out of the competitors all announced out of the total of 8 or 9.
By the end of this pay-per-view and, Rampage and Collision, the 4 that we have so far is obviously Danielson, Andrade, Mark Briscoe, and who we'll talk about later, Eddie Kingston. So we have those 4 so far.
Literally after the next match. So not much to say on that one. I want to see what the field's going to look like, but it's another feel-good babyface to have in there, kind of running that through. We then get to... it was close to my match of the night just because of just the weird shenanigans that went on in this and the loaded butt, which was so much fun. We had Timeless Toni Storm taking on Hikaru Shida for the AEW Women's Championship. Mikey, did the world turn black and white when Toni Storm entered? Please tell us in real life they figured this out.
They did not.
Even if it didn't lie to me, please.
I was lied to. The world did not turn black and white. I'm going to wait until it's my turn to talk about this match because I feel that I'm going to disagree with the majority of the people in this review.
We'll figure it out there. So basically, to give a little overview here, some of the things I saw before we get on there, Toni Storm's old style gear is very cool, very reminiscent of like Mae Young and that type of thing. And she used I noticed some Mae Young moves in her arsenal this time, which was a lot cool to see. I also give props to Nigel for bringing up the fact and explaining to those of us that may not have watched Collision where all this bruising had come from on her sternum because of Emi Sakura kicking the crap out of her, apparently, which I now want to go back and watch in the tune-up match. And in general, for all the shenanigans going on and stuffing things down her pants and taking them out of her pants and, had the heels and everything else, and as much as it wasn't like a straight wrestling match, it was a fun match to watch overall. It moved, it had a flow, and Toni picked up the win. All right, give me your thoughts, guys, here.
I know Mikey's going to go off in a moment, so I'll make it quick. I had fun. I liked the match. I was thrilled with the ending. I'm glad to see someone's paying attention to when people are getting over and pulling the trigger on them for a title run. I'll keep that simple.
Did you like the loaded ass?
I didn't like it. I loved it.
Yeah, I also thoroughly enjoyed the match. One of my matches of the night. It was her ring gear was just so good, But yeah, yes.
All right, Mikey, how much did you hate this match? And we know why, because you feel like Hikaru needed a longer reign.
Not just that. Like I said during our predictions video, I said that I would have been fine either way. I think from a match in terms of getting the character more over with the crowd, I think this match did that successfully because Timeless Toni Storm and her antics with the 2 times with the shoe, which was the only thing I wish is that in my head, as she was creeping up behind Hikaru Shida with the shoe, I'm just imagining like the Pink Panther soundtrack playing as she's like creeping up to hit her with the shoe. It was great. I got a kick out of her loading up her shorts for the hip check with all the metallic padding, which was a lot of fun. So from that standpoint, I think it did its job successfully, and it was a really fun match in terms of that. But I have to be completely honest, because we are a wrestling review podcast, I also have to factor in the actual wrestling. And I feel that Toni and Hikaru Shida, because this was more focused on character-based storyline, in-ring psychology more than actual physicality and what they can do in the ring, I was a little underwhelmed, especially since I feel that in this sense, in a weird way, Hikaru Shida was kind of disrespected because she was very tame this entire match. And I think that I need to see a little more urgency to it. And she was a good dance partner in terms of putting over Toni and her antics with her character. But the wrestling was not where I wanted it to be. And I think that was the big disappointment for me because I wanted it. You can have your silly antics, but I know Toni and Hikaru can go harder than that. And I was disappointed with that. And I was also, in hindsight, I'm glad it ended up being the 3rd match of the night on the main card. But man, I was underwhelmed with the wrestling, but I still enjoyed it from a character perspective.
One other thing that was mentioned on commentary was they sold at the end like, oh yeah, the referee didn't see the loaded backside for the hip attack. And I'm like, the thing is drooping down like a giant dingleberry. There's no way that Aubrey didn't see this thing. And yet we still have to play with that whole thing of like suspension of disbelief.
You can't assume. Maybe Aubrey thought you had an accident, okay?
that metallic and shiny, there's something wrong then. She'd probably throw up an X for that.
Some behind the scenes stuff real quick. This was also the point in the night where I started to realize I think I'm about to end up with a fight with the people sitting next to us, because this is the moment where they started to talk badly about Aubrey. I was just like, I'm about to turn around and say something not so very nice to these individuals.
You know, Jesse, that's weird that Mikey brings it up, because I feel like we had the same experience with the people in our section during Elimination Chamber whenever there was a women's match on or a women's match thing going on, where wrestling fans are toxic and stupid sometimes, especially ones that like don't actually understand what this is.
No.
I know, seriously. You said earlier it was not nice for us because we couldn't understand half of it because they were speaking French. But Mikey, I feel for you on this one, where they're disrespecting women performers and women and everything else for whatever reason of being small dick losers who can't understand that people are better than them and that their lives are complete trash other than what they make of them, and they could do a lot better with their lives.
I was disappointed, and I'm going to put it out there. By the time we get to the Texas death match, it got way worse, but I'm going to wait until we get there for that one.
Aubrey, your hair was on point, your eyes on fleek. I would have
your movements also in the ring, avoiding the contact and everything else, was spectacular. She looked like Beth Phoenix's younger cousin.
Yep.
But we move on from that wonderful third match to Eddie Kingston backstage with Renee, having the time of his life trying to get through the promo and announce a bunch of things that he doesn't understand because it makes no sense what they're doing in this goddamn stupid tournament now, as he's putting his ROH title and his never openweight title on the line in the entirety of the Continental Classic, because the thought is that they're going to combine all three, a title that you're going to get at the end of the Classic, and these two together to make a triple crown champion. In practice could be fun. How do you do this if he loses in the first round of a round robin tournament and he's still in? Because then the person that wins those two titles, do they give it to somebody else? Do they pass it on to another part? Are they going to defend them at all? Or do you make this thing anyways? Oh, by the way, these other titles are also already being defended on other shows at the same time, so it just defeats the purpose of doing what you're doing.
Can we just hand all three titles straight to Bryan Danielson? He's going to take it. He's going to fucking take it.
No, he's not. He doesn't want to.
But they're trying to put it on him. Jesse, you go, because I'm going to tag team in, because I'm about to go off on
this. Is nothing to me but a further degradation of the titles. That's it. There's nothing positive to say about this. It doesn't make any sense. It cheapens them again. It's more of spreading cheeks and dropping fecal matter over titles they do not care about.
Okay. My turn. I am in agreement with my co-host, Jesse, here. It's the further degradation of these titles. But then what makes it even worse for those of us that review Ring of Honor, World's End is literally 2 weeks after Final Battle. So if Eddie loses his title before we get to Final Battle, what is going to happen with that title for Final Battle? Like, what are we doing?
So we have basically figured out that either Eddie Kingston's getting to the finals and winning this, so we've been told this already, or they have no clue what they're doing and they couldn't just leave a good thing alone, which would be a cool tournament to have bragging rights or a little title at the end, to mess with the ROH titles, because we want to combine a bunch, even though Eddie is willing to defend all that he's doing, and move on from there.
I mean, they could run it. They could run this like the Owen Hart tournament. You know what I mean? Those matches were entertaining. That was entertaining. I watched the finals on that, you know.
But according to what they're trying to do with this, they're trying to mirror the G1 Classic in New Japan, which means that it's a round robin tournament where there's going to be a point system involved, and then the winners of each block will go on to this like quarterfinals and semifinals until we get the final two, and we have the inaugural Continental Championship match at World's End. But
so then why money other titles in the middle of it that can get passed around, supposedly if everyone else is okay with defending their titles as they're going through, which hasn't been announced. It just says Eddie's doing that, so we know he's going through.
Because Tony Khan's trying to play Pokemon. He's trying to collect all the titles at once. Like, it makes no sense.
But at the same time, if you're doing the G1, the whole point of the G1 is to get a shot at the main title, not the Continental title or anything else. You get a shot at MJF. Like, that's the point of that.
I think that's how it should be. Here's what I think, though. Now that I'm thinking about it, I think Eddie is going to win, because I just remembered literally a week after World's End is Wrestle Kingdom, and Danielson's going to be facing Okada at Wrestle Kingdom. So I think Eddie's going to win this, because again, they better not put this on Danielson, because he's going to be in Japan wrestling.
But he's got one Japanese title on him at that point, because he'll be the never openweight champion. Like, they muddied the waters on something that made a lot of sense for no reason. And this, to me, knowing what I know about the night as its own, I said this to you before we got on the air here. It seems like AEW is trying to do everything for everyone, and they haven't picked a lane. And the one lane they've been following for their identity is the thing they were created to be against. WWE style strange booking that makes no sense and overly responded to character and not to actual logic within the actual universe. This just makes it.
We complained about Claudio being the ROH champion. The complaint was he's never there. He didn't defend it. He wasn't on ROH program. He was all in AEW. You're doing the same thing with Eddie now. So again, I pose this question to you. Why weren't you listening?
Sorry, what?
I want to move on because I'm about to have an aneurysm.
Aneurysm or embolism depends on which night. Yeah, I agree. Let's move forward.
Depends what part of the alphabet you're in. But we move on to an aneurysm or embolism of a match here because we got the ladder match, the four-way ladder match for the tag team titles here, which Ricky Starks and Big Bill won? I mean, yes.
Yeah.
There were some amazing spots. Why did the Pebble and the 7-foot-tall Numbskull win the titles back?
Because
this made no sense. The match, loved the match. It was an actual multi-man tag match that I am loath about complaining about, that I really enjoyed. A lot of ton spots, a lot of spot fests, I get that. But the ending, why? You had the Kings of the Black Throne as House of Black in there, who came back very recently, who are over. You have an entire void of those people who, those fans who enjoy that dark, supernatural, Bray Wyatt style stuff. And he's gone now, which I'm still not over. Why couldn't you pull the trigger? You brought them back, and then you have Big Bill and Ricky Starks. Neither one of them is. You've got Ricky Starks, who I call him Ricky the Knock Starks because he's a knockoff of The Rock, and not in an LA Knight good way, in a shit way. There's your swear, Mikey, for you. And Big Bill, who's not been relevant since he was 7 feet tall, and you can't teach that.
That was chanted during this match. I'm just putting it out there.
Also, the Gonzo bomb through the ladder that Brody gave to Dralistico. How are they both alive?
Wow.
That was beautiful carnage.
That sounded horrible, but my inner masochist was like, yes, give me more. Then Cash almost ate it when he almost fell off the rope onto it. He saved. I'm going to speak on this match. I really enjoyed this match. Dralistico was MVP for me in this match because I was like, yes, this is the lucha libre I want to see in AEW. Listen, I know your go-to is Pentatoni, but we got to start getting the luchadors some wins up in here. Ring of Honor is the only place they seem to pick up wins. So let's get them to win on AEW. But Dralistico doing stuff was great. I love Preston. I really, really do. But he was so awkward this whole entire match with the flag. I was like, sir, what are we doing? I am also Mexicano, and I love the fact that we're representing the Corsa para la Raza. But, bro, you were so awkward. Also, by the way, Jose, I want that LFI baseball jersey. That was kind of sick and clean. Also, those arms, bro. I was just like, those arms. Roosh doing the diving kick with the ladder in the corner was crazy. I may have cried a little bit because I got my Brody King cannonball spot with the who going on. It was so beautiful. I think the only real critique I have is that Malachi Black was kind of non-existent in a lot of this match until towards the end, which makes me really sad. Though when he kicked the ladder into Roosh, that was so beautifully done. I was worried for FTR Bald because I saw when he split his head open when he fell, which was bad. And then I don't know if the pay-per-view caught it, but when Dax fell off, FTR aggravated assault, as we're referring to him now, when he fell off of the ladder, he landed on one of the rungs that was on a ladder on the floor, and it looked like he shattered his leg. He was actually, there was an audible scream of pain when he landed, and he was able to walk out on his own free will, but that was a scary spot that I don't think you guys saw because the actual medical team had to come up and were checking on him for a couple minutes while the final stretch of the match was happening. But overall, this was a fun match.
You could tell that something was up with FTR towards the end of the match there because, I mean, they cut the camera away, but just the way Cash. The way FTR Bald...
FTR Bald is Dax. FTR aggravated assault is Dax.
The way Dax kind of jumped out and went over to Cash, it made it felt like something went amiss on that. So I agree. The match was great. I enjoyed the match. Not happy with the outcome. You can call it like being smart in the ring and letting everyone else like beat the crap out of each other, but yeah, I would have much rather have seen los La
Facción Incoronable, or LFI for short.
Yeah, La Facción, I would have much rather see them pick up the belt, or House of Black, like Jesse was saying, because they're over, and that, that storyline would have carried over also into Collision, which is where their roost is, but it is what it is.
And that could move forward with their teasing of feuding with the Blackpool Combat Club.
Exactly.
But continuity doesn't matter. We don't need that. And I'm sorry to interject, gentlemen, but we're trying to figure out Dax and Cash for FTR. FTR good result. Find the razor, find the revolver.
I think they're both in the hall.
Or at least I also refer to them as Burt Reynolds.
That's true.
Dax is Burt Reynolds to me.
Some of the other big things from this that were on there, obviously the Gonzo bomb on the ladder was ridiculous. Not when Dax had the ladder on his head doing the spin around, there was a small CM Punk chant that was heard because that was a very CM Punk thing that was going on.
That thing was loud. That thing was loud in the arena.
Then when Cash took the slingshot ladder from Malachi off the ropes, which was a sickening spot, very good. Commentary then vaguely referenced Finn Balor's bad injury in the Hell in a Cell, saying this probably was going to be one of the worst injuries they've seen. So we got to be careful with that. But in general, the other thing I had written down here, Taz, shut the hell up. You're not worthwhile on this. You're not adding anything. You're literally backpedaling everything you're saying because you have no idea what the hell you're talking about. Go to sleep. That's where that was.
Yeah. One more thing before we move on.
In the yam bag.
One of the things I really enjoyed from the crowd being there live was the fact that every time Brody and Big Bill were fighting each other, the beef happened, and then there was one part I know for sure probably didn't get picked up on the pay-per-view because they copyright issues. But literally the entire crowd was just like, Arby's, somebody yelled Arby's, and the arena was like, we have the meats.
I know, we need to go to an AEW show and hear that happen. But I selfishly, as much as I don't think Big Bill is a good worker overall, I think him versus a Brody King match would be a lot of fun to see. Would be one I need to see soon.
Yes, that we need.
Brody King versus Miro would be an insane meat on meat.
Still
match.
Injured?
No.
Miro beat Daniel Garcia on Collision. He beat him up.
Dancing at his wife.
But we don't have Miro on this card.
No, because
we did not. He's trying to figure out if he wants to be with his hot and flexible wife.
And Andrade isn't. Anyway.
I mean, if he doesn't want to be, I will.
You want to talk about do you want to talk about hot and flexible? Our next match had 3 very hot and flexible women in it.
So good.
Honestly, I was sad that the crowd wasn't as into it as I was for a lot of this match because, as Mikey will tell you, the section that you were sitting in was complete and utter pieces of crap. But this was the TBS title match between Chris Statlander, Julia Hart, and Sky Sith Blue. Coming out with her new entrance and new darker feeling.
Gosh, the song was so great, DA System Loud. I was banging my non-existent hair to the soul. Yeah.
We got the right winner. This is a good way to build Julia's confidence too and get her to work a little bit quicker in the ring as a show. Hey, we know you can do this. We're going to give you the title. It's yours now. Run with it.
Yeah,
you can't say much better than that. No.
Yeah, I love the match. Really happy that Julia won. I think that each wrestler had their spotlight, and I don't think anyone, even though Julia got the title, I don't think either Sith Blue or Chris Statlander came out looking weak. Great match. Loved it. Yes.
Mikey.
I'm gonna make this quick because I don't want to take up a lot of time. First and foremost, the people that were sitting in my area, I have a disdain for you. I hope you find a rock in your shoe one day, because the disrespect that I audibly heard in terms of time for the pee break match, and then you all left and were gone for the entire match. I wanted to throw things at you, but I wish nothing but a rock in your shoe. I hope you can't find it and it gets stuck in there and you can't get it out. Now, I want to give credit, and this was my feel-good moment. Well, obviously, because Julia won. But this was my feel-good moment because as I was watching the match go on, the crowd was not into it. They were not invested. And me and my friend were actually starting to get a little perturbed with the crowd because my friend's not a big fan of these 3 women, but he likes women's wrestling and he wants to see them succeed. So he was actually getting mad on my behalf. But what I loved in this match is towards the second half of the match, I think all 3 women in the ring knew that the crowd was not into it. And so then they started throwing everything that they could, and the crowd was starting to get invested in it. They got louder. I don't think the pay-per-view picked it up, but the arena was in full yell mode once we got towards the finishing end. I will also say there's a certain part of my section that I need everyone to calm down. Sky Blue is in her 20s. Let's not be making obscene comments towards her, please. I'm trying not to fight Kyle Fletcher over her either, because I know he'll beat me in a fight. I'm just putting it out there.
Times your size, so.
Well, exactly. He'll hurt me. I really love the fact that Chris pretty much had this match won, and then Julia, being quick on her feet, literally knocked Chris out of the way to pin Sky. And listen, AEW's version of Stevie Nicks, I'm so happy that she won this match. I can tell that she was trying really hard not to break character because she was on the verge of crying, but she had to stay within like her with the House of Black mode. But then I saw social media footage of her as soon as she walked back through the curtain, like she collapsed and started crying, and it was so beautiful because Brody King was like hugging her like a big old teddy bear dad. It was so nice to see.
She had a big scream and caught herself. Like she screamed out loud and was so happy about it.
I loved it so much.
Some of the quick things picked up on this, just so I have some other things we can react to. Everyone noticed that Chris Statler came in as dressed up like the Cobras from Dodgeball. So
it was so good.
But I said there are 3 heels in this match because weren't those the bad guys?
I also love how they kind of color coordinated because you have blue and red with Julia, and then when you mix them together, you get purple, which was a beautiful touch.
The other thing I noticed about Statler's gear, though, the way that she had the certain armbands and everything else, she was dressed up like Chris Hero, who made his return to wrestling this weekend. So, and I don't know, maybe a nice nod.
He's teaming with Kenta in a couple of weeks. How does that happen?
You do what you have to do. So that was kind of fun to see there. And, you know, there was one piece of continuity that I didn't like about this match. In about the first quarter, Chris Statlander pulls Sky Blue aside and is like, I thought you were on my side. What are you doing here? We're on the same side. And I'm going, Chris, it's a triple threat for your title. No one's on your side. What are you talking about? But other than that, it was a really, really great match overall. And you're right, the right person did win that and made everyone look strong in the process. Sky now has to turn even farther and go farther to the dark side.
Yes, very, very well done, Sith. Well done.
Good.
We
move on from that wonderful match and something we all enjoyed to, you know what? Tony Khan made an announcement. It was set up as a big deal, and they did the right thing. They brought in the right person. Will Ospreay finally, even though you would think from all his working with them for the last year, is now AllElite next year because he's not done with his NJPW contract yet. But he wanted to set that up, and we all know the reason why was because Tony Khan has come out and said we needed to sell more tickets when tickets go on sale for Allin starting December 1st, and he's not officially on the books yet. But if you make the announcement and have him do it, maybe it'll move more tickets for the Wembley show for a hometown boy. Gents, you happy Will Ospreay is finally AllElite in about a couple months?
So
He was already, so nothing I can add.
I'll go last.
You always do.
Really quick, when people were like, oh, Will Ospreay, he's going to go WWE, I was like, no, he's not going to go WWE. So I am not surprised he's AEW. I'm happy that we'll get to see more of him on AEW because I really enjoy Will Ospreay. You know, I just hope they give him good matches and they don't like Kyle Fletcher him. That's it.
Well, I think with him being there, they're not going to be able to Kyle Fletcher either because you've got Aussie Open and the Empire, like they're going to be there. Then he's not going to let it happen. And Mikey, did you hear recently the reason he chose AEW? He actually came out and said it. Did you hear this?
Yes, he also reiterated it during the scrum too, because Will Ospreay was part of the scrum. Will Ospreay, for those of you who don't know, picked AEW once his New Japan deal is up because for a variety of reasons, he has built a rapport with Tony Khan over the last year that he's been working with AEW as a representative for New Japan, but then also too, it would allow Will Ospreay to not have to move his family from the UK over to the United States, and he would be able to be on weekly television for AEW, but it wouldn't require him to uproot his family and make specifically his son, from what he said in the scrum, to have to start all over at a new school in a new continent. And just, you know, it was a big thing. I also think being signed to AEW for Will Ospreay is going to be a good thing because since AEW is one of the few companies that works with other promotions as well, if he had gone to WWE, we would never have gotten any matches with Will Ospreay and any other person in other companies because WWE doesn't like their workers and their performers to work with other promotions. But again, if it means more crossover with New Japan, and if that means Will gets to have more banging matches in Impact, we're good to go. I'm excited. It's going to be great.
It's a good signing overall. We're really happy he's here, and that he'll be allowed to expand himself in the prime years of his career in a place that hopefully will respect his style, and maybe this will give Kenny Omega a break, make him go away for a bit because we have someone to carry the load in AEW.
Right. So before you go ahead, Jeff.
ROH TV title and then send him off. Okay.
Anyways,
sorry, I got some really sour
that means
grapes
he's got to work more just on AEW TV. Problem.
So before JVL introduces the next match, as the boss, this is the timestamp where I have to do the thing. We're about to talk about the craziest match that happened on the pay-per-view, and we're going to get a little bit graphic. So if you are not a fan of blood, violence, gore, and some very not so fun imagery throughout the match, we suggest you fast forward further into the review to kind of avoid this talk. But with that out of the way and your warning being issued, JVL, go ahead, Jesse.
Mikey, can we add a timestamp, at least in the YouTube section, to jump ahead for those who aren't interested in hearing that?
Oh, absolutely. If you check out the description below, you can jump to that timestamp when we are done talking about the following match. But with that out of the way, JVL, why don't you tell us what we're going to be covering next?
So this match, as we talked about in our predictions, was one we thought should have been the main event of the night. It happened in the middle of the card for some reason, and they made everything else after it kind of have to come. But this was, and before I get to it as well, just before that, before we get to all these things, drop a like in the comments if you liked any of these matches so far. Give us a comment on that stuff. Follow BC WrestlePod on all of the wonderful socials. Let us know how you liked our review as well. If you liked all of us, how we're doing it, or different ways, we want to interact with you. Get that out of the way in the first hour of this thing. Back to what we're talking about here. This was the Texas Death Match between Swerve Strickland and Hangman Adam Page. To begin, before any of the violence, we got Prince Nana and the backup dancers doing the full Swerve Strickland entrance, and my God, I didn't need to know I needed this as much as I did. It was ridiculous. And to tell a personal story quickly about Jesse and I, we went to lunch today, having had watched part of this review, but had not done it, and we were doing the Swerve dance with our daughters in the booth. And a random stranger recognized what was happening and said, "Oh, the Swerve dance," and all these things, and said they can't get their son to do that. They think it's kind of stupid. And I said, "I don't know what you're talking about. Prince Nana is a gem." Because this is virally going across the nation. Everyone's doing this dance. To get LA trained backup dancers to give Nana his walk-in is amazing, and then a very intense swerve. And before anything else can happen, no entrance, nothing else, Adam Page dives in the ring, and the carnage was on. Boys, talk me through the moments that you thought were great, a little too much, or just over the top about this literal car crash that we watched.
My first comment on this match is, I don't know if you'll be able to annotate this one. It was too much for me. Like this was, I grew up watching the Attitude Era hardcore division when it was at its peak. Same with WCW. This was too much of ingesting each other's blood. This gave me a lot of concerns around. Isn't that how we spread hepatitis for a milieu of other diseases? I was happy with who wound up on top in the match. I was happy to see Prince Nana and the dancing, but after that, it was too much for me.
Go ahead. You go ahead.
Okay, I need to prepare myself because I'm gonna tell you from beginning to end of that match, I was speechless the entire time watching it, and at one point, I actually hid behind my friend of how violent it got for me, especially the ending. The ending sequence is what made me feel the most uncomfortable, only because of the imagery that was burned into my vision when I saw that. We only saw from the behind shot because they didn't actually have the screens on showing the action like you guys were watching at home, though for some reason they put it on for the main event, but that's neither here nor there. But then when I was, watching clips to play it back to see if there were different angles, I saw it, and then that was the imagery I saw. I'm like, oh God, I was like, it's just as bad as I thought it was when we were there live. Okay, it just got increasingly more and more hard to watch. It was already bad enough with the staple gun was crazy. I think the first big part that I was like, oh, this is about to get worse, isn't it? Is when, after failing to do it the first time, Hangman takes one of his son's little finger paintings and then staples it to not the arm, not the chest. Like, I was like, okay, that's bad to get stapled. Or no, he stuck it in Swerve's cheek. That was bad. Then barbed wire chair
with the other one.
It was
he gave
bad.
him a paper cut in the neck.
It was really bad. And then the cinder Swerve throwing the Hangman on the first cinder block was bad. Then onto the barricade. Prince Nana going through a table. The barbed wire chair getting stuck in Hangman's hair, and Swerve was pulling on that thing.
He almost lost an eye from it coming across his face like that.
Hangman like choking out Swerve with the barbed wire wrapped around his mouth and neck was really bad. And then the chain spot, I was just like, it was a lot.
You hope there was like some person that shot something a week ago or something when they went to a clinic together to both get their blood tested to make sure there was nothing floating around in there. Because if you're going to be doing that even in the moment, you got to know better than that.
And, you know, while I had picked Hangman to win, I think this match, it was a star-making performance for Swerve. And I think allowing Swerve to run with this momentum of literally going to hell and back with Hangman, I think will add to what we want to see. We want to see Swerve in that title picture at some point. And I think if you're watching this review, I don't think Swerve has anything more to prove, because I think this match, he just proved that he's got, the wrestling is always phenomenal, but he also proved that he could go above and beyond and bring that extraness that we know Swerve can. This was my match of the night, as intense as it was to watch it live and to see the surrounding audience members in my section all looking at each other and just like the variety of the amount of, oh my gosh, this is actually happening. This sucks, because after this, the next two matches were very, very hard to be invested in, because this match really should have been the main event. Like, I know you want to have your main title as the main event, but this should have been the one to end the night, because I think this would have been, from a story perspective, this is how you leave. Again, and I will quote our other biconic, Luis, and what he says that Eric Bischoff says all the time: you want to leave your audience with more questions than answers. So having Swerve win, going off on the end like that, and just leaving them wanting more, I think would have been a more interesting way to end it, because I hated the way we ended Full Gear. But, you know,
I would say the pay-per-view in general left a lot more questions than answers.
I mean,
not in a good way.
Yeah, and
but also
this was a lot. I had the thankfully AEW was smart enough, because they gave us like a 3 to 4 minute break after that match while they had to clean up, and they allowed the audience to decompress, which I appreciate that AEW gave the audience time to like center themselves, relax. Like, oof. It was intense.
That was the other reason for this, was that there should have been time for a cleanup. Completely a time for a cleanup on this, and they didn't have it. I mean, that's why you leave it at the end, so you can clean up everything afterwards, because you could tell that the mats were still covered in the dust and the glass and everything. By the way, where's Jack Perry's crying a tear somewhere as they brought out actual glass to do a 450 splash, and the fact that their entire front was like, you know, that Swerve's front wasn't torn up even more is crazy.
At first, I thought it was thumbtacks. I was like, oh, cool, thumbtacks. Like, that's crazy. But then, as soon as I saw what it was, I was like, oh, that's oh, no.
This was as close to GCW as you're going to get in AEW right now. And John Moxley was at half chub just watching it, but also really upset that he wasn't as bloody as Swerve was and as Brody had been that night. Like, John, out of all the bleeding that went on that night, John Moxley was like third on that list. I also love the Hangman Stole My Weed sign. That was hanging out.
That was so fun.
But this, I think we all agreed this was the spectacle of the night. Whether it was the best match or anything else, this was what people are going to remember the most from this, up until the complete and utter waste that we had in the main event for no good reason. So, gentlemen, yeah, go ahead, Adolfo.
Just because I'm going to give my 2 cents. So I watched Full Gear with Alice. This match, just anything else that came after it was just a pittance, right? This was my match of the night. I'm an older wrestling fan. I grew up watching the days of no universal precautions. You know what I mean? So
headshots.
Yeah, right, exactly. So I wasn't as taken aback by the barbed wire, the glass, or the staple gun. Kind of got me, of all things, the staple gun, because if anyone has ever had a staple gun go kunk into their finger, they know that so that kind of got me. But the thing that I took away was the intensity of these two athletes and the show they put on, and they left everything in that squared circle. And if there ever comes a day that I can buy a beer for Swerve and I can buy a beer for for Hangman Adam Page, I will fucking do it. And I would be shocked if afterwards, like when the cameras were off, they met up somewhere and like just hugged each other for a little bit, just to make sure that they were cool. because let me tell you, that match was so intense. I personally believe that those two just hate each other, which again might be the farthest thing from the truth, but they did such a fantastic job keeping the intensity up the entirety of the match. Each time the ref count to 8 and then to 9, and then, Swerve would like stand up, and the Hangman would stand up. It was just like, I don't know. It felt like something I haven't seen in a long time. I thoroughly appreciated it. This was my match of the night.
I believe it was only let down in one instance, and it was my match of the night as well. The amount of times commentary had to remind Taz what the rules were. Like he's screaming out, "Cover him! End this thing! Cover him!" You can't cover someone in a death match, Taz. As they said at the beginning, it is knockout or it is give up.
Yeah, I think it was around this time that I texted in our group chat that they need to fire Taz, because like Nigel was with it, and Caliber for this match was with it, but Taz just was like, it was almost distracting what he was saying. So
I am happy I did not have to hear the commentary for this, but like I said, the chain spot to end the match probably, unfortunately, sits within the depths of my soul, because that imagery is, I'm going to tell you guys off camera because I don't want to get us in trouble, but that particular spot is where I was ready to start fighting people in my audience because it got really bad. The misogyny was really bad during the TBS Championship match, but then it took a darker turn that I don't want to repeat on air. So
the racism is rampant. We can say it here.
Yep, it was really bad.
But we then move on. I'm going to set this up to get off of this thing. Here's the timestamp. Welcome back to everyone that didn't want to hear about the death match there. We moved on to, I had actually forgotten this match was on the card at this point. I had written down we were at the main event. I thought I was done for the evening. Like, we're just going to do back-to-back and knock it out. But no, we still had to do the Golden Jets versus the Young Bucks. And this was a match.
It happened. Golden Jets
I
won.
refer to this as the EVP special. It was just a weird match.
Yeah.
I didn't think it needed to exist at all.
I
When I looked through my notes and went, who the hell are the Golden Jets? Oh, wait.
Yeah.
It's
Between the CM Punk chants and everything else, like, this match was not being paid attention to by the crowd. I'm assuming, Mikey, when you're in there, no one was on board with this match the entire time in what is ostensibly the Young Bucks' home backyard.
Well, I mean, the Bucks were getting booed, so that made sense in my mind because they're being more heelish, so, you're going to boo them. Like you said, there was a CM Punk chant that reverberated through the crowd, and I got annoyed with it. I also was getting annoyed because people were also still harping on Aubrey during this match too, and I was ready to start throwing hands. Well, it wasn't even just Aubrey. They were also doing that to Bryce Rimberg the whole entire night too, and it was ridiculous. But in regards to the match, this is unfortunate because I had a great time because I finally got to hear Kenny's theme song live, which is like one of my favorites. It's on my workout playlist with all the other wrestling themes I listen to when I work out. I love Battle Cry. It's a lot of fun. There was a lot of choices in this match that didn't make a lot of sense to me. Like, I don't understand why Kenny played to the fact that he was going to betray Chris Jericho when both him and was it Nick or Matt that was lined up on the other side, and he pointed to do the knee to Chris Jericho. I was like, I don't even know what that was for because I knew that Kenny wasn't going to do it. I was like, why are we playing into that, Kenny? We know that you're not going to do it, so why was it even in there? I did appreciate, though, that the Young Bucks tried to do the one-winged angel on Kenny, which was a lot of fun to see. Technical-wise, like, there wasn't anything wrong with it. It's just I was so gassed by the Texas Death Match that I had no investment in this, but I didn't have any investment to begin with either, because like I said in the predictions video, the Chris Jericho Black Hole once again plays an effect of this because they win. I found it strange but not strange at the same time that the Bucks threw the tantrum at the end. Somebody went home with their shoes though, because they threw the shoes in the audience and somebody was able to catch both pairs of Nat Jackson's shoes. So they're going home with some nice kicks. I have to say, I do like the Young Bucks' shoes. They're really, really cool. The tantrum was a little much for me. And there were a couple spots where they were getting so involved that they almost hit Aubrey with the chair too, as she was trying to calm them down. And I got scared for her. And I know they weren't doing it on purpose, but I was just like, it was too much. And they overdid it, which I was just like, listen, I don't like the tantrum to begin with, but you're overdoing the acting. And it's like, it's not believable, you guys. Technically it was fine, but I didn't care for this match to begin with when this was announced. And I sure didn't I still felt the same way afterwards.
Adolfo, how about you on that end? How did you feel about this kind of filler match between this and the main event?
So again, after the Texas Death Match, my energy had been expended. This match was very lackluster. It was, to me, it felt more of an energy suck. The build up towards this whole Golden Jets, Kenny Omega, Young Bucks thing, it happened again, to me, happened too fast. There wasn't a lot of time for it to percolate. It just kind of seemed like Kenny is with Chris Jericho, and now the Young Bucks are, up in arms and, whatever. And Chris Jericho, and God, I like Chris Jericho. I do. The years did not look good on Jericho this match. And I hope that this is a final lap type thing for Chris Jericho, that this culminates with some match that he can walk into the sunset and, continue chasing his rock and roll career and his budding movie career, because he's made guest appearances in a few movies and whatnot. So there's no lack of want for Chris Jericho, and he's got enough of great personality and whatnot that he can survive elsewhere. I'm not meh.
I like Chris Jericho. I thought they were doing his kind of farewell tour a few years ago when he had that feud with MJF, and then they brought in Juventud Guerrera to have a match with him, and I thought that was kind of the final farewell tour for Chris Jericho. I am a big Chris Jericho fan. I've been a fan of him not since his early New Japan days, because I wasn't cognizant enough to watch those. But when he first came into WCW, he was one of my absolute favorites. It's sad to see how he's performing now. I don't know what the next step is for him. I'd like to see him continue in the ring because I enjoy watching him, but I think he's better suited to his, rock band and his, his 60-year-old suburban mom dance moves on the stage.
Always, yeah. I can agree with everybody on this one. The big thing about Jericho is that he needs. I think Ollie Davis put it best on the Wrestle Talk News today. He's about a year overdue for him taking a break from our screens to make us miss him, because he needs to rest up. He needs to take time off, figure out physically where he is, go on a tour with Fozzy, and then come back and let us know, like, hey, I'm still here. And then we're refreshed on him. He's just been constant over the last year, and without the work rate to help him, he's just a void. He's a void at this point. Some highlights I did write down highlights and lowlights. You had the CM Punk chants going on there. We had Kenny Omega, after taking the German on the apron, his selling of him not being able to get up where his leg gets stalled and he falls back down on the floor, I found hysterical and also wonderful. Great selling on that. A lot of fun there. Wrote this down word for word. Hooray! Dick kicks. The most innovative way to prove you're a heel. It's what their go-to was on this. I also wrote, so Kenny Omega kicks out of the One-Winged Angel. That's the most protected move in wrestling right now. So you waste the kick out on Kenny, the guy who does it?
I think it's the most protected when he does it.
Probably, but in general, it seems, again, it made me a little upset there. But yeah, other than that, that was all I took away from it there, and that Aubrey was amazing, and that she had to basically corral these huge, ginormous swinging egos that were not able to work with each other that way.
That was a lot of ego in that ring. Also, really quickly, one thing I forgot to mention, I got my bingo card that I had because I got to see 2 Snapdragon suplexes from Kenny, and I was just like, oh, I love that move. And I'm glad that nobody got hurt, though. But man, this match was okay.
And the thing about it is that it had a point in certain ways. It was setting up something that was going to happen next. Our main event, because of the storyline overarching the entire night, basically took an NJPW former champion, a really amazing performer in the ring, and someone who should be as dangerous as possible because he's actually that good, and made him lose to a one-legged man in an ass-kicking contest. As we had, at first, Adam Cole come out. We get to hear his music. He makes his way down the ramp with the crutches, sells the whole thing, gets in the ring, does the whole entire entrance, which was funny to watch with a man in crutches to do as he's sitting to do the boom. And then we had Jay White come out. Also, by the way, we didn't talk about this earlier. Jay White, when he came out for the promo, had the Guns music because AEW technical things were all screwed up this evening in a bunch of different places. He at least got his own music for this entrance. They get set up to get ready to fight. He lays down for him, does a Kevin Nash to kind of get him in here to get him to try to do stuff. It was kind of funny. And MJF stone colds the ambulance and hobbles his way back down to the ring to then fight for 25 minutes on a bum knee and beat Jay White. Simpsons did it. They did it in the 90s, and they did it better. This was a complete and utter waste of your champion, of your challenger, of a really fun storyline you had built up with Jay White being a slick heel, stealing the belt from him, and basically proving in kayfabe that is Adam Cole actually really hurt. We haven't seen him and the devil person in the same room at the same time. You're trying to do too much, and it's not working for you. Gentlemen, bring us the main event.
Go ahead, Mikey.
No one wants to talk except Mikey. Let's go, Mikey.
Okay. I'll chime in ever so often because I have a laundry list of things here.
Get that out, then let's make some laundry.
So
Also, fuck Taz. There's my F-bomb for the thing.
again, I'm so happy I didn't have. I will say maybe I would have liked to hear Nigel ever so often, but I'm glad I didn't get to hear commentary. It was so refreshing not to have to want to throw things at my television screen. So I have to say this, and I want the IWC, the internet wrestling community, to take my take with a pinch of salt here. For me personally, this was my least favorite match of the night. This is at the bottom of my list. Not on a technical standpoint or like it was a car crash, or like it was botchy or whatever. This was my least favorite match because when you couple it with what happened on 0 Hour, and then the segment we got with Jay White and Tony Schiavone and Adam Cole on the ramp leading into the beginning and the entirety of this match, this was an overbooked mess. There's a lot of things that didn't need to happen. It made no sense from a writing perspective to have MJF wrestle for 25 minutes on a perceived injury to the knee, which any medical professional can tell you that any damage to the knee is going to cripple your ability to do a lot of things, as Adolfo knows firsthand experience.
That's why I wanted Mikey to go ahead first.
I'm setting everybody up for when they go off too. It's going to be fun. I also did not like the fact that I did find it funny that when the table collapsed, when Jay White literally barely touched it and the announcer table collapsed, I actually was not happy with Max in the sense of he still did that insane elbow drop onto it. I was like, sir, you're landing on the floor. Do you know if you land wrong, you're going to shatter your elbow that way? That is not safe. I don't care if you are still doing the spot. This is where safety comes into play for me. I want my performers to be safe. My move of the night was whatever that top rope cutter was from MJF, where he jumped over the top rope and literally did a cutter to Jay White to the floor. My biggest issue with this match and the entire feud that we had leading into this main event, I don't agree that Jay White got buried in this match. I don't think so. He's Switchblade Jay White. He didn't get buried in this match. I need people to calm down. But what I do agree with is that this whole entire feud and this match made him feel like a dweeb to me. And that's not okay with me because I'm familiar with New Japan Switchblade, the former leader of Bullet Club. Like, I was expecting a lot of things when he got signed. And this whole entire feud with MJF, he was perceived to be a dweeb. Now, granted, looks like he's having fun doing so, but I'm upset that Jay White lost clean, in a sense. Like, there was no schmaz, like, no devil mask. Yes, there was you know what? I don't like the fact that Jay White lost. Why did we have this feud to begin with? This makes no sense for Jay White's first feud. I'm taking MJF out of the equation. You have one of the top stars from New Japan signed to AllElite Wrestling, and, you know, up to this point, him and the Bang Bang Gang, specifically Jay White, he has not lost a single match since being signed to AEW. And for MJF to be his first loss in this fashion doesn't sit well with me. I hate it. I hate it. I hate this. I hate it. Jay White didn't need to be in this feud. He did not need to lose in this fashion. I hate this for Jay. I can go on for hours, but we're going to be here all night, so someone else can tag in and go off.
I was confused. I was frustrated. I think we'll create a new term here for just this main event, confrustrated. We're going to move forward with that. Why? Why did we do this? Who did this help? It made MJF look kind of silly. It certainly didn't make Jay White look strong. I agree with all your points, Mikey, about Jay White. I was very excited to see him because I don't get to watch much AEW. So to see him premiere a premium live event in the main event, I was very excited. And then I was also very disappointed. So I really don't have much good things to say about this. Maybe their idea was good in theory, and even that's a stretch, but the execution was just horrible at best. I didn't like it. I didn't need that. I didn't need it at the beginning of the show. I didn't need all the clips in the middle, and I didn't need this at the end. If you just remove the storyline from the pay-per-view, it's a much better pay-per-view.
Adolfo, speak from your experience here.
Weekend, was it this past weekend or the weekend before? I did a 2-weekend run at the Delaware Renaissance Fair with my stage combat, the Lords of Adventure.
Plug.
We do a lot of, now we don't do wrestling type moves, but we do a lot of sword fighting, a lot of moving, a lot of jumping. You know, it's not a get up on stage and tell funny jokes type bits. It's a lot of physical humor, and it's a lot of work. Now, my right knee years ago, I had to get it replaced, and now in these later years, both my knees now are showing signs. My last show, my knees were so shot that there's a part where I'm supposed to come around and face my partner, and as I started to come around, my knee gave out. It was just like, I'm done. And I fell down on the floor. Now, of course, I popped back up, played it off, and, went through it. But my partner could tell that I had some issues, and we adjusted the show like that. So seeing MJF, who supposedly, got his knee like jacked up and had to get taken away in the ambulance and this, that, and the other, seeing him come back, and doing those flying maneuvers over the rope, the flying elbow, the this, that, and the other, it killed it for me, because like I said earlier, I would have much rather someone come out and either have saved him, or Adam Cole, so Adam Cole comes down to the arena, and Jay White comes down the arena, and Adam Cole can take the mic and be like, Tony Khan might have not cleared me to wrestle you, Jay White, but I know someone that will, and here comes Joe, Samoa Joe, and to fight in MJF's stead, which I personally think, from a story standpoint, to have Samoa Joe save MJF's title, to then think that he was the devil, but now because he was really overselling the whole bro chacho thing. Now I'm just like, okay, so maybe you are the devil. But again, I would have much rather appreciated some sort of
This also was, as I got through it, it was really there to set up Adam Cole being the devil. If you notice during the match, he is chanting for Max to do a dive, and if your friend has a bad knee thing, are you really going to be doing that to them? He's looking Max dead in the face, getting in the right perspective to be able to show him the towel he's going to throw in, I'm going to do this for you, you got to look at me like this. And then they did kind of the similar spot almost that the Santos Escobar spot at the last pay-per-view for WWE, where he could have tossed him the ring. He could have handed it to him, but no, he made him come all the way over to get Jay White time to get up, and then had to hand it to him and all that stuff, where it didn't work out that way. Adam Cole is purposely doing stuff, setting up the fact that he probably is the devil, which means the Kingdom and Roddy Strong are the other devils, and they're going to end up being that way. But I will leave it with this. This is the final thought I want to leave you with for this match. It is summed up wholeheartedly when you listen to the end commentary from the match. They're not sad. The faces are not sad. They're not upset. Excalibur sounds tired. Like he's completely bored with this, that this was just you can hear in his voice, why are we doing this crap? And Excalibur is the biggest AEW cheerleader. He will walk down through glass and be there for it. And when he sounds like he is completely nonplussed and doesn't want to be there, this was terrible. Yeah. So that's what we'll leave that there. Gentlemen, we need a rating for this. We've all sat through this lovely night together. Mikey sat through it live in person, so I feel like you have a weighted bit of a review for this, because obviously you were there to experience the energy. And then we'll go to Mikey, and I'll give my final. What was your rating of this pay-per-view of Full Gear 2023?
So Full Gear 2023, overall, I thought it was entertaining. Since Jesse's here, so not to explain the whole empanada thing.
I know him.
All right. So
I should watch the product sometimes.
Okay. All right. Cool. So I would give this 4 empanadas out of 5. I would watch it again. I would rewatch it, if I didn't have to pay for it. But I would rewatch it again. The Texas Death Match was good. The Tony Storm Hikaru Shida was good. Statlander, Sith Blue, and Julia Hart was good. The ladder match was good.
I enjoyed it for the most part. I always have a tough time rating a pay-per-view where the undercard and the mid-card serve so much better than the main event. It's really frustrating for me, so I can't rate it nearly as high, so I'm going to go 3 1/4 empanadas for this one.
Mikey?
Because I was there live, I have to consider the actual in-person experience and the energy from the crowd that goes into my overall enjoyment. I am sitting here giving my thoughts from the technicality-wise and the story-wise, but overall, Full Gear 2023 was just a really fun time. And I feel that that's what's been missing for me from a lot of the more recent AEW pay-per-views is that a lot of the fun has been missing since August up until now. I feel like the pay-per-views we've gotten have been fun matches, but it seemed like this pay-per-view is where a majority of the performers were actually enjoying themselves in this match. And I especially could tell that in both of the women's matches. I think changing the titles for both Tony and for Julia to be the new champions, I think is going to hopefully redefine the women's landscape heading into World's End and the rest of the year. I'm hoping Tony Khan actually listens to the crowd and to the audience and to those who review his product that, did good on letting Tony and Julia win, who the audience is really behind the last couple of months. Here's hoping that he does the right thing and allows them to have some great storytelling and have some great feuds leading into. The only real downer match was the main event, and that's coupled with the whole entire story through the entire pay-per-view that I didn't necessarily like. I'm still miffed that this is how we're using Jay White right now. But outside of that, I thoroughly enjoyed it, minus my issues with some of the matches and the wrestlers made me care about this pay-per-view. And they made me have a great time because they were having a good time. I was having a good time. And with all that being said, I'm going to give this 4.2 empanadas out of 5. I really, really enjoyed this. And honestly, this is probably, not counting Forbidden Door, this is probably my favorite AEW pay-per-view this year.
So I'll say by the end of this, as we can come to our final stuff, I will give this also about a 4.25 to start with. However, because we only had 2 women's matches and they were the best ones on the card, but nothing else was furthered that way, coupled with the fact that we had the overarching storyline and the main event we had, I have to drop at least half down. So we're going to 3.75 empanadas out of 5 for me. It was an entertaining one. I also would go back and watch some of these matches again. And that's kind of the standard for me, is if I would go back and watch a majority of a pay-per-view, it's better than average. Most pay-per-views, I watch it once, and then I'm kind of done. I don't need to go back for it. And that even goes for some of the WWE ones we watched together. So that's where I'm sitting with that there. Gentlemen, any final thoughts on Full Gear or where we hope things are going in the future?
Well, I do know that Dynamite's going to be chunky in the sense that we're going to have lots of the singles matches because they announced it during Full Gear that begins this Wednesday on Dynamite. So for the next couple of, it's just busy for the AEW brand in general because we have the build to World's End, which is in about 4 to 5 weeks. Then you have the sister brand that AEW owns in Ring of Honor and the whole schmoz that's going on over there. So I'm hoping that the build towards Final Battle and World's End, because I have to include both since they're both related to each other at this point now. I just want fun stories. And I just need some clarification on exactly the breakdown of this tournament and what that means for, our boy from Yonkers and his championships that he's holding. And I don't know where we go from here. I don't want to see MJF and Joe quite yet at World's End, but I'm interested to see who our next challengers are for all these titles. So I'm just hoping that AEW does right by the performers and at least make me engaged in the next chapters.
We'll definitely see. And for the other two of you, any other final thoughts on the pay-per-view?
My only 2 final thoughts are, first, please do something properly with the House of Black. Secondly, put my Ring of Honor titles back where they belong. I want to watch Ring of Honor titles on Ring of Honor. It's not your sister show. It's not your playground. It's a proper promotion. Give us the titles. Give them the prestige and the acknowledgement they deserve.
Delva?
I agree with Mikey. I agree with Jesse. The only thing I would add, disappointed in the way that the Switchblade Jay White MJF storyline ended out. I do hope that AEW keeps lifting up Switchblade and Bullet Club Gold, because they, for the stuff that they have been given, like the rivalry against FTR, and then this rivalry against MJF and the army of MJF, they have been entertaining. The Guns, Juice, Switchblade, they have been entertaining, and I hope that they keep being lifted in AEW, and that we don't see them go quietly into the night. And when it comes to the heavyweight championship and MJF, do better.
100%.
Do better.
I've got one more hot take that I had just thought about and just thinking it up. If you want to keep the tag titles on Big Bill, fine. Get Ricky Starks out of there, and please bring in. I know he's not the greatest human being on the planet. I know that. He's also not a great wrestler. But shit, if he's not entertaining, bring back Real One and put him back together. Then I'll be happy, please. I want Enzo and Cass back together, and I might be the only one on the planet who does, but they were so much fun to watch.
On that level.
It's a hell of a way to leave that on there.
Yep.
It's a hell of a way to end there. So thank you again, Biconics Wrestling fans, for sitting with us through our review of Full Gear. We definitely enjoyed it that way. Tell us what you think in the comments. Did you enjoy Full Gear? What worked for you? What didn't? Let us know you're listening. Subscribe. Click that bell. And remember, as usual, with everything else we do here, you're Biconic. We are all Biconic.